Hi, Professor Barati here. I just want to do a quick video on the finance simulation for this week. Each of you have been assigned a case scenario, and each scenario has a budget constraint, different budget constraints for different scenarios, and different EBITDA constraints. And the whole idea of this case study is to basically select projects based on net present value, internal rate of return, payback, and profit index. Basically, you're utilizing capital budgeting techniques to make decisions on which projects. Certain projects will be labeled as low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And those risks are not will basically carry different net present value, internal rate of return numbers associated with them. But obviously the higher risk projects are going to show greater internal rate of return numbers and entice you to take higher risk. The simulation does not guarantee that those higher risk and thus their returns will pan out. So over time, some of those high risks projects will actually disappoint and hurt your financials. Some of the lower ones will do better. So it's a case study in basically resource allocation, how to allocate a limited resource, which is a capital budget, to different projects based on risk-adjusted factors using net present value, internal rate of return. If you click on the Prepare screen, you'll get a quick view of New Heritage's story here and what's behind the case study. If you click on How to Play, there'll be an intro screen. You can download the transcript here, and it will tell you basically how to play the scenario simulation, and you should read it and get a good general understanding of how to play this. It's fairly easy. As you can see, the instructions are fairly short. Once you go to an Analyze screen, there are basically three divisions for our company. If you go to the dashboard, you'll see that we have a production division, a retail, and licensing. So our revenue for production is $125 million. Retail is $190 million. Licensing is $24.5. Cash flow by division, you'll see that licensing generates more cash flow than the other two, despite being lower sales. Operating profit, you can see that licensing generates a lot more profit than the other divisions. Total assets, licensing uses the least amount of assets, so therefore the return on assets is going to be very high for licensing versus the other divisions. Return on capital is going to be higher for licensing. Here's your annual budget right here, $19.8 million, so you can't exceed that. But it will change each year. You start off with 2009, it's going to change based on your budget and scenario. Here's your income statement. Right now we're on the retail income statement. Here's the licensing. Here's production. And here's the consolidated for the company. As you select projects here, these are going to change depending on which division the projects are in. A cash flow statement. Our consolidated cash flow statement says that we have in 2009, and net income plus depreciation, $26.06 million. Adjustments to working capital, net working capital, basically are right in this section. We get a cash flow from operations minus CapEx, net change in debt, and so on to get a cash flow from financing, and so on. This will be affected by how you select your projects here. If we go to the licensing's cash flow, we'll see that licensing projects cash flow from operations of almost $9 million from net income of $8 million. So it does very well. Financial analysis of each division: licensing, debt-free cash flow, discount factor, a discounted cash flow from debt-free cash flow. So here's the discount factor right here, discounting the debt-free cash flow to get a discounted cash flow. 5-year EBITDA. It does the same for retail. Obviously, retail has a higher discount factor. Production has a 1.08 discount factor here. Consolidated, it looks like we have an 8% discount factor on the financial analysis. Project details. Here's a project detail called Match My Clothing Line. If you select this detail, this scenario, it is a line of look-alike matching dolls, children's clothing for girls. New Heritage has ample experience designing, sourcing doll clothing, but this proposal also required to follow quickly changing children's fashion trends. The Match My Doll clothing line will offer only typical California warm weather. An all-season line is likely to be proposed if the initial line is successful. This is considered a high-risk endeavor. So right now the project discount rate is 7.85% by default. The risk is high. The 2010 projected cost is 4.57, so that's what's going to come off your budget to pursue this project. The internal rate of return is a very high 22.24%, discounted at 7.85. The net present value is going to be $9 million over this period. The payback period is 9.21 years. Okay, and these are the number of years. So the projection for debt-free cash flow is going to be your initial investment of negative 4.57. And then it takes till 2012 where we start seeing profitability, and then it climbs to 2020. Here's our discount factor, cost of capital based on the 7.85%. So discounted cash flow is going to be basically right on this line. Okay, and this discounted cash flow will be 9.17. The internal rate of return is 22. So if you select this, this will go into play. Now notice if you take the corporate discount rate, but say because this is a high risk, let's say you want to choose a high risk, and let's say you are in the retail section or production. If you use 9%, notice the 9% factor, the net present value of the discounted cash flows declines. So if we use 7.85, it was 9.17 million. If we use a high risk rate of 9, the net present value is 6.46 million. Notice the internal rate of return goes down. If you drill down another warehouse facility consolidation. Again, if it's a medium risk, instead of using the corporate rate, you might want to use 9.3% and make your decision based on that. If you decide, you can view how well your program is doing from the original projections to actuals over time. And this will give you some comparisons from a historical standpoint. This will start to populate as well. And you will be able to do projections once you start. So let's say I'm in the retail section and I select let's say I do the match my doll. So let's look at our projects. I have a 19.8 constraint budget, and I'm in the production section. Now I'm in year 2010. And I get an update. I chose the toddler doll accessory line. And my project cost in 011 is basically a little under 0.01. I don't know if that's in millions or thousands. And you can see my debt, my cash flows are projected out. Those are projections. Let's look at actuals. So in 2010, my debt free cash flow was 2.14. And you can see how the impact is over the projected period of time. So as you select more programs, let's go into retail. Let's look at our mail order catalog. Let's look at a retail expansion in Northeast. This is a high risk. We're in 2011. It's a high risk. Projected discount rate is 9.3. I'm going to go with 10%. 2011, I'm going to expand to 3 stores. In 2013, I'm going to add another store. I'll make that 4 stores. So I got a prompt saying can't exceed 5, so we'll keep it at 5. Payback period is a good 6 years. Discount, we use 10%. Net present value is pretty high, although it's a high risk. And so if we look at the impact here, internal rate of return in 2011 could be 42.24%. And this is basically the impact on our income statement and working capital. So under decide, I'm going to accept the retail store expansion. Submit. and now start to look. I've used in 2011, I've used 1.3 million of my 20 million available for our budget. Basically, that's basically what you want to do, is be able to basically follow some of these decisions through and see how they affect your revenue, your income, your financial statements at a high level. You don't have to go into great details, but just basically get an understanding of the impact and why you made certain decisions and so on. The idea is basically have a little fun with it, and you're not really asked to do any heavy calculating or anything like that. So have a little fun with this. It's a very well designed simulation. Thanks for watching.